We're going to be using files for data storage. And why would you want to do this? Well, when a program needs to save data for later, it stores it in a file. And we're going to be working with text files. It's super simple, super easy. You can see I have this here, but it doesn't exist. It hasn't been declared yet. We'll get to that in a second. Anyways, text files are super easy to work with, and we're going to be using that as a basic example. So programs refer to the process of saving data into files as writing data to the file. You have a few different types. We'll go over these in a second, 3 actually, but first let's go over some basics. You have output, reading, and input. So an output file is a file to which data is written to. Retrieving data from a file is known as reading data from that file. And input file is a file from which data is read. So, okay, you only kind of have these two, and then the input file is this said file. Now, step 5 is to talk about the preprocessor directive. We can't do any of this unless we include FStream up here. This is important. We need this to start our code. Speaking of code, we're about to get to that. But first, let's talk about file stream data types. So you have OF, IF, and FStream. OFstream is your output file stream. You can create an object of this data type when you want to create a file and write data to it. You gotta be careful with this one though, because if this file already exists, you're going to overwrite it. The if stream is a little bit different. It's an input file stream. Create an object of this data type when you want to open an existing file or read data from that file. So remember, this one creates and writes. This one opens and reads. The F stream is a little bit of both. So objects of this data type can be used to open files for reading, writing, or both. Before data types can be read or written, file must be created, file must be opened and linked, and we're about to look at how to do that. So the syntax to create a file is first to start with our F stream. This cost right here, it's the same name as our cost.txt, but it doesn't have to be. It can be totally different. This cost, and actually I'll change it, you'll see, is just a reference to our F stream. And I think I just killed an entire line. That's my bad. It's like when you take out one bulb on a Christmas tree and it just kills everything. Anyways, this fstream x is just a reference to our F stream, and we can use it inside of here to call the F stream. So F stream, which is x.open, we're gonna pass in the file that we want to open. And remember, F stream can read and write. It can create as well. So we are creating this cost.txt because it doesn't exist yet. And then inside of it, we're just telling it that it's gonna be an output file. So this information is going out to the file. So we have prices 3 times, and we print the price, and then we have a post increment beforehand. So this is going to be 53, and this is 54. Let's run this. You'll also see it print to the console. That's not because of this though. We'll get to that in a second. We also have an error. Oh, because I changed this to X, so that should be X as well. And we'll get to these closing statements in a minute as well. So if we run this, if you look to the left, you'll see that our file is going to be created. It's going to be called cost.txt. You'll see cost.txt, we can open it up. 52, 53, 54 is inside of this file right here. And that is doing with our F stream. F stream you also have to be careful with though, because if I were to run this again, and I had different values in here, it would overwrite this cost.txt, just like our output file stream. If we want to read data from the file, remember we would use the input file stream, and then inside of here we pass in our file name, it's cost.txt, and then we have a string line. This line is going to be what stores every line inside of our cost.txt. So when we iterate through this, it's going to store this line, and this line all to print out. So notice how we have this get line. We're going to get the line inside of this read if stream reference, and then we have the line that it's going to store that specific line of information in, and then it's going to print it out to the console. Hopefully that makes sense. It's kind of like the equivalent of a scanner in Java. Lastly, you're going to want to close the file, and that's because you don't want any resource leakage. It's just good practice. So that's pretty much it. We have learned how to simply read data from a file, simply write data to a file, as well as initially open or create it. So that's pretty much going to be it for the basics of files. Let me know if you have any questions, as always, and check out more C++ videos in the playlist below that like button.